By popular demand, I am going to show you my faux staining technique, which is using a combination of stain and chalk paint to get this faux wood grain look on your pieces. This is such a simple technique, and it always brings in a high price tag, especially if you sell your work in boutiques. So I'm working with this gorgeous apothecary style dresser and 2 nightstands. I'm going to do the faux staining finish on the top, and I'm going to replace all of these knobs with my vintage brass knobs that are also a top seller. The first thing I'm going to do is just a scuff sand on the tops of these. The factory finish on the base is great, and it just needs to be cleaned up. There was a lot of water damage and soft spots on the tops of these dressers, so I went in with a wood filler. The product that I used is plastic wood. This was important just to get a really sturdy, nice base for the faux staining finish. Really simple to apply, just put it on anywhere that it has a soft spot and then do a quick sand with like a 220 grit sandpaper just to even this out and make for a really smooth top before you start the process. Now that we're sanded and ready to go, we're going to put on a layer of chalk paint. So my favorite is this Annie Sloan Old Ochre. It gives it a really creamy base, and as you can see, I'm just going right over the top of all of this mess that I've made by sanding the tops of these. 1 or 2 light coats of chalk paint is all it takes before you move into the staining process. I'm using an oil-based stain. I usually go with Minwax. Special Walnut is one of my favorite colors. However, what you see me doing here is just mixing different colored stains. So I believe a Special Walnut and maybe honey was used on this particular piece. Now you're just going to take your custom stain that you created and paint on top of the chalk paint. This is a pretty forgiving process. You don't have to be super careful as you're applying the stain because you're basically just going to apply it, wipe it back with a paper towel, and it's in the finishing details of the piece where you're going to take a larger brush and go over it to get the brush strokes exactly how you want them to look like a wood grain. I finished it off with a matte polyacrylic spray just to protect that top, and of course all of the vintage brass knobs that made it just look so incredibly beautiful. Again, the factory finish was in really good condition, but I did go through and added some distressing on all of the little edges there of the drawers, which I think gave it a nice little touch as well. I believe I paid around $300 for the dresser and the 2 nightstands, and now with this new beautiful finish in the boutique, this whole set brought in around $2,500. Such a beautiful and simple technique to use on your next piece.